Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to another episode of the Muhammad Speaks radio show. And I am your host, Sister Nora Muhammad. And I must begin by bearing witness that there is no God but Allah who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And we are so grateful today that Allah came and raised the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a perfect leader, teacher, and guide to us, the so called American Negroes, the blind, the deaf, and the dumb, here in the wilderness of North America. And it is in their great names and not mine that I greet you with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. And I am just very excited to be with you this evening, broadcasting from Muhammad from Nora Speaks podcast studios and not WTMR, where we usually broadcast from. And it is my pleasure and privilege to host this evening. And I thank Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad for this opportunity to be with you, to be able to speak to the people who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad represented and taught. And that is specifically the so called American Negro, the blind, the deaf, and the dumb, Black man and woman here in the wilderness of North America, a people who have been, just so brutalized and mistreated, so much so that even after 400 plus years, after emancipation, after Jim Crow, after the Black Codes, after the Civil Rights Movement, through the Black Power movement, through the burgeoning educational class of the 80s and 90s, and even to today, we still find ourselves suffering very greatly, demonstrating, in fact, that we do lack a knowledge of ourselves. And so it is a privilege to be able to be before you to say a few words on behalf of our people, talking about the time, talking about what we must do, bearing witness to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us while he was amongst us. And if we read his books and study his lectures, his interviews, we will continue to be taught by him. And so I'm grateful to Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad for making it possible for me to join you this evening and for you to join me. We're going to be hearing quite a bit from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad this evening. As you know, when I am hosting Muhammad Speaks radio show, I do like to make sure that you get a nice dose of the messenger, of his cadence, of his voice. I think it's just important that we tune our ears and get our ears accustomed to the sound. There's so much that we are accustomed to. We're accustomed to ratchet music. We're accustomed to ratchet television, ratchet YouTube. We're accustomed to a lot that is not only is it not self-serving, but in fact self-harming. So I think that it's appropriate on this radio program, Muhammad Speaks Radio, that you hear from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And in fact, as you listen to not just me or Brother Minister or anyone who's hosting the show, but as you listen to some of the segments of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that you will begin to understand why we believe that he's so valuable and why we believe that you should be tuning into him. Um, and if we don't play him, you won't hear him because we don't get to listen to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad very much through mainstream programming. We are certainly being programmed, but not with the programming that can rehabilitate, that can mitigate the harm that was done for us. So I think that's important. That it's important that you hear the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And again, there's so much work that's happening at Temple Number 20 on Haddon Avenue in Camden, New Jersey, under the administration of Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad. And I just have to tell you, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I am so proud of what's happening because it shows um, that there's someone who's being obedient to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he says that we have to do something for ourselves. We have to begin servicing ourselves, servicing our community. We have to begin doing for self in some capacity, because there is going to be a time where we are not going to be able to be served by our government or be served by the business owners, the business class. There was a time where we couldn't go into, white diners or white owned diners or white owned movie theaters, white owned hotels. There was a time where we had to go to our own. And that segregation and the laws that enforced it made us rely on each other and look to our brother, look to our sister. And in fact, for us to identify a need and say, we don't have a diner in this part of town. And, Aunt Mamie makes the best fried chicken. So let's open a restaurant for Aunt Mamie, right? That can serve the community. And if we did go to a white owned movie theater or a white owned diner, we had to go in through the back. And if you're believe that you're an important person, why would you want to go anywhere if you have to go in through the back? So there was a time where we were forced. Literally, we didn't have an option except our own. And then the laws changed, and there we had integration, and the counters were integrated, the buses were integrated, and all of a sudden we forgot about Aunt Mamie's fried chicken because we could go to the diner in the center of town when we once couldn't go to the diner in the center of town. So Aunt Mamie's business suffered. Uncle Frank's hotel suffered. And many other Black established businesses suffered because the idea of being able to be integrated perhaps gave us an air of opportunity or entitlement, or we thought that other people could provide better service. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I do know the psyche of a people who have been so abused and who were taught that everything about them was wrong, that Black is bad, Black is ugly, and that everything white is superior. That was just the teaching, the training, the mindset. And so, unfortunately, many of us still suffer with that mindset. But we're seeing now that there is certainly coming, a point in our present day where there is a growing a rift, a growing animosity. There's growing tensions in this nation. There's growing tensions abroad. And so we really have to be thinking about what will we do if we are cut off, if we no longer can go to the Krogers, if we can no longer go to the Food Lion or the ShopRite, or the Piggly Wiggly for folks who have to shop in a store that has such a name. What will we do when we are not able to go to businesses to purchase what we need to survive? These are things that we should be thinking about. And so, Muhammad's Temple of Islam, number 20, we have started that work of doing for self, primarily by educating our own students in the University of Islam, not just the students who are raised by Muslim parents, but we have students who are not raised by Muslim parents, parents who recognize that there's a value in the education, there's a value in the outcomes that they see from the students who graduate from the University of Islam. And so it is just vitally important that we don't just think that we can rely on others. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that we would reach a time where welfare would be saying farewell. And if we pay close attention, we see that we've reached a time such as that. So, what are we going to do for ourselves? And what Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad is leading in the city of Camden is an example of that. And there are others who are striving to be an example. And so we salute those brothers and sisters who are working, who are striving to establish something so that we can show our children that we don't have to always rely on outside entities to serve our needs. Our children shouldn't have to think that if they need something, they have to leave our community to get it. Other people don't think that way. If they need a job, they call Uncle Tom. They call, Uncle Eddie, and they go and they learn carpentry, or they learn electrical work. They learn how to, lay concrete. People can go to their own, and not just identify resources, but to be trained, to be protected, um, and to be provided for. And so that's what we strive to do here in Camden, New Jersey. And there's so much that awaits us. There's so much that we are working on, and we want to provide services to our community because our community deserves it. We shouldn't have to leave our neighborhood to get quality, effective, efficient care, right? Whether that's medical care, whether that's social services, we should be able to look to each other and have those needs met because we've done something to establish a service. And in this opening, I also not just want to thank Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad, but I also want to thank the co-founders of Crow, our late brother Munir Muhammad, Brother Halif Muhammad, and also Brother Shahid Muslim. These brothers are the co-founders of Crow, the Coalition for Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we are so fortunate, brothers and sisters, that we have such an organization as Crow where we can access the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, whether that's written, whether that's audio, whether that's visual. We can access the true words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad without filter, without edit, without it being cut, spliced, no changes, no filters. Some might say pure teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank them because to do something such as what they've established just requires so much. It requires tenacity, it requires stamina, it requires dedication, not just to collect, and they're not just collectors, but to collect the newspapers, the videos, the yearbooks from the University of Islam or Muhammad University of Islam, the schools of the Nation of Islam, but to not just collect these items, collect his words, collect his writings, but also to make sure that we can access it 7 days a week. And not only are we able to go visit the building in person, and we could be taken on a tour, but we can also tune in every Sunday at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's 2:30 Central Standard. And we can also watch their show streaming live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard and 6 p.m. Central Standard. They also have Crow Radio, right, that you can access. And I'm just so proud of our Brother Jamil Muhammad, the editor and publisher of Crow Report. There's also a newsletter now, a free newsletter. We know we like that word free. Well, there is a free newsletter that you can subscribe to. You can go to crow.report. That's crow.report. And you can subscribe to the newsletter. I encourage you to go back, and I believe they launched the Crow or relaunched the Crow Report in May. So you can go back and you can read those past newsletters and you can get the latest newsletter. And I encourage you to really read through that newsletter. And I'll say Brother Jamil has a column in the Crow Report, and his inaugural column, it was just powerful. So I encourage everyone who's listening to go and read that amazing column. And, it's just touching to be a student and follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and just to see someone else have such gravity for what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad established for us, for what Crow has established for us. It is just so impactful. And so this is what we're talking about. We are in brotherhood and sisterhood with others who are striving to follow the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in doing for ourselves and not just relying on others to do it for us. And as I said, this episode, we're going to be hearing much from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because he's someone that we should be hearing much from. So we're going to take transition to a brief break. Again, if you are just tuning in, I am your sister, Sister Nora Muhammad, and we are not broadcasting from WTMR Radio. Our radio station or radio studio that we usually broadcast from, we are broadcasting from the studio of Nora Speaks podcast. And it is my privilege and pleasure, and again, I thank Brother Minister for this opportunity. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back from that break and we're going to continue to talk about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and what makes them relevant to us today. Assalamu alaikum, and we are back. I understand that you're not able to hear the clips that I am playing. I'm not really sure why, but technology has its limitations, and maybe I have limitations as well. But again, I am your sister, Sister Nora Muhammad, having the privilege and pleasure to host Muhammad Speaks Radio this evening. And the clip or the clip that I was just trying to play just a moment ago was a song from Gil Scott Heron, and it is called "When You Are Who You Are." It's a clip that we have played on the radio station on the Muhammad Speaks Radio before, and in it he just talks about us, or specifically talking to a woman. He's saying, "You're so beautiful when you are who you are," and I think that um, is something that as Black women, we have to just accept. And there's so many makeup tutorials. There are tutorials on the braiding and the weaving and the you know so many ways that we can look other than who we are. And I really like that song, and I think it's important that we play it, especially for our girls, because there's a lot of music that's targeting our young women, and it's not saying you're so beautiful when you are who you are. It's telling our young women, or encouraging our young women to engage in vulgarity, to engage in when I first started hosting Muhammad Speaks radio show, I frankly I called it Sister Potato Head, because you had the lips that you put on, you color your lips, right? You got the eyelashes that we put on, we got the makeup, the foundation, and the 30 layers of whatever that we put on, and then there's a spray that we spray our face with, and we put the weave or the wig or the braids in, and then you have this final product. And who are you? Do you recognize you? And we're so excited to become that other person, um but to just be who we are, just to be who we are, and the freedom that we can experience in just being who we are. And unfortunately, we have allowed ourselves and our young women to become so accustomed to I don't want to necessarily say being fake, because it's modern, and it's trendy, and we think, man, when are these trends going to end? But some of this stuff is really hanging in there. The tattoos all over, and we treat ourselves almost like an art project. and we do all of this, and we change our appearance. And I think, okay, now when you run out of the makeup, when, you know, your wig gets unbearably smelly and odorous, when you don't have any hair to braid into your own scalp, when you run out of the nail polish, or when, you know, your technician isn't available to put your eyelashes in, like, can we accept ourselves just being who we are? And frankly, so many of us have a challenge with that, and we should question why do we have a challenge with just being who we are. And it's frightening. It's really frightening. And you know, there's um, research and studies and statistics that show that black women lead in certain cancers, that black men lead in certain cancers related to men, but black women lead in cancers, specifically the most aggressive forms of breast cancer. And our breast cancers are detected very late, or later than others. But I wonder how much of these, how much toxins are we in proximity to with all of the products that we're putting on ourselves, or this, the so-called hair that we're putting on, and we're putting, I mean, our skin is the largest organ in our body. We put on this makeup, we put on sprays, and I see some of the athletes, they don't even sweat. Why aren't we sweating? Sweating is a way our bodies remove toxins. Sweating is a way that our body regulates its temperature. Why can a woman run up and down a basketball court with makeup and not sweat? There's something wrong with that. So I don't think there's an accident or mystery why we lead in some of these horrific and deadly diseases. I would suggest it's related to what we're doing. It's related to the chemicals that we're putting on our skin. In fact, statistics also show that Black people are the greatest consumers of all cosmetics, including fragrances. And if we know anything about the parabens and the phthalates and all of this stuff that are disrupting our endocrine system, which is a regulator for the body, then we'd understand why we are dealing with so much dis-ease in our bodies, because we are putting substances on our bodies that just aren't good for us, that have negative health implications for us. And the shameful thing is, sometimes a woman may want to pull back from it, but because she's become so accustomed, and because she's let other people become so accustomed, that even when she's thinking, okay, this is enough, it's become such a habit, right? Just being something other than what we are. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that when you see the Black woman, he said, you're looking at a natural beauty. And he said, the Black woman, she goes natural. And there is no reason for us to feel that there is something insufficient in just being ourselves. And if there's an idea that we have that we are somehow insufficient, we have to look at who gave us that idea. I mean, think about an infant that's born. An infant that's born has everything he or she needs. Um, uh, Outside of food that mama is going to feed the baby when she nurses, a diaper change, making sure the child has the right environmental conditions. When it's cool, the baby can be warmed. When the baby is too warm, the baby can be cooled. But in terms of confidence, I mean, listen, a baby will cry when it's hungry because it has an expectation, an entitlement that my belly should not be hungry. Feed me, right? So there's an expectation, there's an entitlement. But at some point, we start shifting that for our children. And that continues on into adulthood, where the things that are should be just natural to us, or just, normal expectations, we begin wondering. Girls wonder what, and this is a horrible thing, but I wonder who my dad is. And if I ask mom, well, what is my dad's name? Then mom's going to yell at me. Mom's going to, argue with me. I mean, things such as that. Children not even knowing the names of their fathers. How bizarre is that? Right. So when a child is born, the child has an expectation that needs will be met. But then, unfortunately, we live in such a society that those ideas, um, you know, begin going away, because a child is taught to hug Uncle Randy when Uncle Randy makes that child feel uncomfortable. But adults say, no, go give Uncle Randy a hug. So now the child has to fight through their own instincts or their own boundaries because an adult is saying, go hug Uncle Randy, right? Or there's Aunt so and so, who every time she comes around, she has a negative comment. Oh, look at that girl's hair. Somebody needs to do something with that girl's hair. Ooh, look at her. She was out in the sun. She's getting too dark. The things that we allow people to say to our children are the things that we say to our children ourselves, right? So the confidence, the exuberance, the joy that children have naturally, oh, we begin destroying that thing and we let others do it as well. And often that is because we just are ignorant. We just don't know what a child needs. Because I think that if we knew better, then we should do better. And so that is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has for us. He has a teaching, he has a program that helps restore all of those ideas that about our natural entitlements that were just taken from us. I remember I was at Temple University in Philadelphia, and I was asked to do a workshop for a group of girls. And the workshop was about character building, but somehow we detoured, the conversation detoured, as it should. Let me just say this before I get back to the story. Whenever we have an audience, whether you're a preacher that's preaching to your parishioners, or whether you're doing a workshop for young people, I understand that sometimes we have to go in with the subject matter. We prepare, we get that subject together, but once we look into the eyes of our audience, or once our audience asks a question, we can't just be focused on what it is that I have prepared and my subject matter that I spent the entire week preparing for. We have to be able to pivot and give the people what it is that they need, not just pontificate to satisfy our own ego. And so during this workshop, I detoured, and a young woman was asking me about low self-esteem. I was saying that, not having confidence in yourself, that's not good character. That, not loving yourself, that's just not good character. And so she asked me about that, and I asked her, well, why would we have low self-esteem? Where would that come from? And the conversation just grew legs. And I helped her and others understand that we are trying to be something that we're not. We have been trained in this nation to not value ourselves. We were told that we were enslaved because we're Black, simply because we're Black. We were told that we're Black because we've been cursed, the curse of Ham, one of Noah's sons. Who was Ham, who looked on his father with scorn and contempt, and he was cursed. And so we are the descendants of Ham. This is what we were taught. We are taught that we were Black because of a curse. And so then we were enslaved because we were Black. I mean, just think about what that does to a person's mentality. So we have been trained to think that there's a negative consequence for who we are because we are something negative, being Black. But conversely, we were also taught that that which is white is best, it's superior, and that which is Black is not good and inferior. And I said, now, what do you think that does to a person? If you take a newborn, you can shape that child to be and to think whatever it is you want that child to be as an adult. You can work on that child in its infancy, and you can train he or she to be exactly what you want that child to be. And I explained that's what happened with us in this nation. We were shaped from our introduction in this nation to be something that rejects self, that heralds others but rejects self. So I was sharing some things with the young women. For example, I said, do you know that Black is dominant? Right. And so there was a biology major there. So we got to talk about, the dominant and the recessive. And I had to share with them that dark hair, dark eyes, dark skin were dominant, whereas light hair, light skin, and light eyes are recessive. And that you can get the recessive out of the dominant, but you cannot get the dominant out of the recessive, meaning you can produce something lighter from something that's dark. But if you're operating with something that's light, you can't get anything dark from it. So then, who is dominant and who must be original, right? And so, just we don't have to go into what some people call as reverse racism. No, we can just teach science and teach facts, right? And so, Gregor Mendel was the one who, quote unquote, discovered the dominant and recessive, and we did the Punnett squares, right? And we were able to show them that everything about you, and this happened to be a dark skinned young Black woman, that everything about you is dominant. So now explain to me again on why you're trying to not represent your dominant self. Right? So you want your hair to look recessive. You want your eyes to look recessive. You want your skin to look recessive. Where do those ideas come from? And so as I was explaining this to this beautiful group of young Black girls, they became some of them started crying, because I understand what it's like to have some idea of inferiority when we are trained to believe that we are inferior, and then to realize the truth and that you've been tricked all this time, right? And so this is the freedom that we get from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, understanding who we are, understanding how we got to be in this condition, and also understanding what we can do, the measured activity that we can do to resolve these issues that we have. I mean, and that's a heck of a conflict to look at yourself and be dominant, but think that you're inferior. I mean, that is a trick, right? And so we have to relieve our young people and ourselves of this false ideology, right? And listen, it's not, here on Muhammad Speaks Radio, we're not here to point the finger or talk about what others have done to us, when we could talk about, we didn't enslave ourselves, right? In North America, right? We weren't owning and running plantations. Perhaps there were a few here and there, but we know who our uh, former slave master is, right? However, this is not a program where we just want to point the fingers at what, quote, white people have done to us. But we have to now uncover the ideas that we have uh, accepted, that we still perpetuate. And so when we are on Muhammad Speaks Radio, others listen, and everybody listens to Muhammad Speaks Radio, and they tune in. They want to know what the Muslims are talking about. They want to know what the Muslims in Camden are doing, what they're planning, and we understand that. But our goal is to help our people know the truth, to be a part of the resurrection, to be an instrument of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in helping our people understand it is time for us to be resurrected. Now, this is not meaning that we think that a dead body is going to climb up out of a casket that's buried 6 feet deep. That is not the resurrection that the fathers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are speaking about. The resurrection is the mental resurrection, the moral resurrection, the spiritual resurrection, because we have been made into a blind, deaf, and dumb people. And the scriptures define us as dead. And dead people do nothing for themselves, right? And when we compare ourselves and what we have been rendered to be in this nation, we do very, very little for ourselves. And so the scriptures define us as a dead people, right? And so we want to resurrect this dead people. And what do living people do? Living people build, right? Living people unite. Living people are progressive. Living people don't allow their streets and their blocks to become infiltrated with debris and trash, and they don't tolerate people coming into the neighborhood and just doing all manner of things outside of their homes, where their children have to walk back and forth to school. Living people don't wait for the police department to come address a nuisance that's outside of their homes, that's outside of their schools. Living people don't uh, stand around in picket lines, or boycotting businesses because the business owner isn't treating us right, isn't being equitable or just to us. A living people say, no, we can sell each other shoes, we can sell each other tops and pants, we can sell each other toothbrushes and toilet paper. We don't say, no, we want to come to you to sell us toilet paper and toothbrushes, so you better do us right, you better treat us right, you better be nice to us when you sell it to us, you better say thank you and have a nice day. No, living people do living things. And this is what we are trying to encourage our people to just think about. Think about all of the areas in life where our needs are being met, and consider, where are Black people in any of these experiences? And I don't just mean the Black nurse that you saw in the clinic or in the hospital that your people don't operate. I'm talking about something that's owned and operated by your own people. Everybody likes to go to their own people for service. It's just natural. That's not racism. It's natural. And then sometimes you might want Indian food, right? So you don't you go to Indian people to prepare your Indian food, or maybe you want Chinese food, right? You don't go to Japanese people for Chinese food. Maybe you want Chinese food, right? But then sometimes you want your own, and we should be able to go to our own without it being a difficult negotiation trying to figure out how far do we have to go to patronize our own people. Everybody likes to see themselves, and we are no different, even if we have been trained and taught to deny that natural affiliation. You can be in the supermarket, you can be in the mall, and you could be at a concert. You could be at a training, you could be at a seminar. And when you see another Black person, you know the nod we do. You know what we do. That acknowledgement, because you feel good that there's somebody else there that you can relate to and that can relate to you. That's not racism. That's just comfort. That's home. That's family. That's community. But we've been so busy about trying to, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, dissolve ourselves in a society that just doesn't want us. And that's just not really going to work for us. It's not working for us. Um, there's something I wanted to talk about on the next time I hosted Muhammad Speaks radio show. There's a very well-known hospital and hospital system here in Camden County. And there was a millionaire or billionaire who made a very, very generous donation to this hospital and hospital system. And so the name of the hospital is going to change. There's a college that used to be called Glassboro State. And then Mr. Rowan donated, I forgot how many millions, but it was a lot of millions of dollars. And now Glassboro State is called Rowan. Glassboro State College, that my aunt went to, is now called Rowan University, named after the benefactor who donated millions and millions of dollars. Well, this hospital system just received a very substantial donation. And so there's going to be a name change. And I saw where someone on social media said, oh, they just want their name on everything. And it was a Black woman who made the comment. And so I thought about that. I thought people want their name on what they own, right? Now, listen, it wasn't Hakeem's hospital that's going to be renamed. It wasn't your hospital. It wasn't my hospital. It was somebody else's hospital that is being renamed. Now, what do we have to do with that? What business is it of our own? And I think, wait, what's your name? Talking about the person that made the comment. Jennifer Allen, Sue Jones, Tiffany Johnson. it sounds like you're still in the name of someone that's not your own people. And so we have to be very thoughtful. We have to be careful about the things that we say so that we don't look foolish, because many of us are still going in the name of our former slave master, right? When we were on the Johnson plantation, we were Ed Johnson, right? And then when Ed Johnson sold us to Master Jones, then Ed Johnson became Ed Jones, right? So what difference does it make the name that's on property that's owned by another? My question for sister is, why are you still wearing your former slave master's name, right? Name signifies ownership. So we have to be thoughtful and careful about some of the criticisms that we give. Now, these are living people. These people don't need to be resurrected. These people are alive. That's why this person can make a substantial donation and the name change to reflect that person who made the donation. My question is, have you made a donation? My question is, do you have a hospital? My question is, do you have a clinic? My question is, do you even own a stethoscope where we can come and get our chest listened to, right? So we have to be careful about getting into other people's business, the business of living people. What we want our people to do is to get some business of our own, get some activity of our own, so we don't have to spend so much time monitoring what other people are doing. And if we have business of our own, then we have business to protect. We have business to advocate for, right? So we have to be very careful about getting in other people's business when we don't have business of our own. And often that is the case, isn't it? That somebody's all up in somebody's business because they don't have any business of their own. Because when you and I have business of our own, we don't have too much time or energy to be up in other people's affairs. That's just not what civilized or intelligent people do. We let them take care of theirs while we are taking care of ours. And I think that's better for us. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that a name is worth more than gold, right? And so it just makes sense that we should be in our own people's names. I mean, we can go into a doctor's office and the nurse or the receptionist can say, can Tiffany Johnson come to the front? And we look around the room, we don't know who's going to the front. We don't know if it's the Black woman or if it's the Caucasian woman, right? Now, if we see a sister that looks, let's say, Japanese, then we don't expect her to go because we would expect that she would have a name that reflects her people, right? But what about us? What about us having names that reflect our own people? The need or the idea of how proud we were, our people were, in the 60s and 70s when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching about Black Power. He had a Savior's Day address, 1967, called Black Power. And then you started hearing some of the Black Panthers talking about Black Power, or the so-called uh, uh, Pan-Africanists talking about Black Power. You heard Black people talking about Black Power. You heard Black people wanting to take the name Shabazz or Ali or Hakeem. And now we have even Christian ministers, right, who are named Rashad and Rashawn, right? Because it was exciting. There was a time when it was exciting to take a name that did not reflect European heritage. Because we said, wait, we're not Europeans. Why do we have European names, right? And so we get confused about this. And so when we're talking about our names and having a beautiful name like Nora Muhammad, right? Like Jamil Muhammad, who I want to say happy birth anniversary to our brother Jamil, who had a birth anniversary yesterday or sometime over the weekend. We're so excited and proud of the work that you're doing, brother, there with Crow, and especially with the Crow Report. Happy birth anniversary. Or a name like Shahid Muslim, right? What a name like Amina Muhammad, a name that reflects your people, right? Your people. Now, that's something to have pride in, to have a name like that. And I want to say something to our students. We have some students that we've taken to their college campuses. We have Brother Halim Muhammad, who is on campus. We have Brother Wasi Muhammad, who is on campus. We have Sister Hasana Muhammad, who is on campus. And we are so excited for the promise of their future. We encourage our young people to, if they're going to college, to make sure that they're studying something, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, that can contribute to a nation, to their nation, right? So I know Sister Hasana is studying engineering. I believe Brother Halim is going to be studying business. But we want to make sure that whatever our young people are studying or whatever training that they're getting, it is to help them become proficient in contributing to their own nation, right? Skills and knowledge that's nation building, that we should have a nationhood mentality. So we are excited about our young people on the campus. We want them to be examples and shining stars. And it could be so easy for our young people to get on campus and, just blend in, right? Instead of sticking out. Sometimes when you stick out, there's a lot of work to be done, right? But I remember being on campus and sticking out. And there was a lot of work because there was questions and challenges that came from professors, that came from students, that came from parents and family, right? When I began studying the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad at Rutgers University, and I am so proud that all these years later, that those who met me on the college campus, when they see me today, I am still practicing Islam, a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, living a life, a beautiful life, and living a beautiful life with others who are doing the same, right? So we encourage our young people to be examples. And I also want to say, I believe our sister Khalees, Brother Jamil's niece, Sister Agina's daughter, is also now on campus there in North Carolina. It's exciting to see our young people and that we have friendships in all walks of life. We have friendships all around the country, and we support each other. We are not fair weather friends that we just come around when times are good, but we show up when our people need us, even when those times are strained, because that's what brotherhood and sisterhood is in Islam. And I'm just so glad to be a student and follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I know I'm excited for another school year here in Camden at the University of Islam, and I am so proud of our instructors, Sister Tajane Muhammad, who happens to be my lovely daughter-in-law, Sister Anisa Muhammad, who happens to be my goddaughter, and teaching and instructing our students at the University of Islam, and our lovely Arabic instructor, Sister Nietma Abdullah, and the great contribution and sisterhood that she gives us. We have our master teacher, Sister Catherine Muhammad, and our director, Sister Shabri Muhammad, who oversees all of the operations, including the child care center. It is so wonderful when we have a promising future ahead of us, and we don't have a future if it doesn't include our young people. Making a way for our young people, demonstrating something to our young people so that they don't have to grow up and think that there's no opportunities for them, that we can help create opportunities for them, or to show them that we can be ourselves in any room that we go in. We don't have to put our Islam to the side to be successful, right? When it's time to buy a house, right? When it's time to purchase a car, or when it's time to get a promotion, or whatever it is. Like, we don't have to hide or put our Islam to the side to make other people comfortable. We believe in what we have, and further, what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us makes us excel, right? He's taught us how to be civilized, right? So we show up to work on time, we give an honest 8 hours of work, we treat everybody with freedom, justice, and equality. We are not to be unfair. Everybody is to get justice. Not, some people think because the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, that we only do right by Black people. No, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wants justice for all people. And that's what he teaches. That's what he's taught us to want for all people. Everybody should get justice regardless of race, creed, or class. We're just saying, how come everybody else doesn't think that? How come everybody else isn't being just regardless of race, creed, or class? So no, we don't want this just for Black people. We want this for all people. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad showed us how to be successful in just being yourself. And so there's so much that there is for us to share on the Muhammad Speaks radio show. I am just very proud and excited of this community in Camden. Um, I'm proud of the membership at Temple Number 20. It 17 years. We have been back at it for 17 years. Now, Crow, they're looking at our 17 and they're saying multiply that by two and add a couple, right? So they're an example for us, but seeing what we can do when we endure, right? Working with Black people, formerly so-called American Negroes, a people who were blind, deaf, and dumb. It's not easy. It's not easy because we are not practiced with Black authority. We are not practiced with independence. This is something that we have to work at and we have to get proficient with, right? So it's not something that we are so used to. So because we're practicing something new, then we're going to have bumps. We're going to have misunderstandings and disagreements. But just because you misunderstand or disagree doesn't mean you file for divorce. That means you see your way through it, right? So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about unity, and he taught us about an enduring unity, right? And he's taught us to watch out for distrust, watch out for suspicion. Those things tear away from the fabric of unity, right? And we want to be so quick sometimes to hold suspicion for our brothers and sisters, but we'll take our change from a cashier and not count it. So we're quick to be suspicious with each other, right? Just that inclination that we have, that inclination that was installed in us to be distrustful of that which is Black. But I encourage you to put that down and give your brothers and sisters a chance. Let us practice at this, right? This nation has had decades, or excuse me, centuries of practice. And in those centuries, they were being unjust to us. We were their property, right? Being hung, being lynched, being tortured, being raped. I mean, that's the history, right? But we don't say we're quitting America. No, we're going to be back at Walmart tomorrow to get what we need, or we're going to be at Target or Target because some of us are a little more sophisticated. And I guess we decided the boycott is over. So we will give others third, fourth, fifth chances, but we don't give each other a second, and sometimes not even a first chance. And we have to do better than that. And we have to be better than that. And so I'm just excited to be a student and follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I have the great pleasure and fortune to work along with brothers and sisters who are committed, who are dedicated, who are striving. And Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad labors and sacrifices so much so that we, our people, can have an example right here in the Delaware Valley. We can have an example of what it's like to sacrifice, to labor, to endure 17 years, to endure persecution, to endure personal attacks. I mean, I just think that sometimes the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, like we just have some kind of bullseye on our backs and everybody's practicing dart practice with us or something. But it's okay because we know what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad experienced and suffered through in trying to teach a people who were hard hearted, stiff necked, and rebellious and in love with their former slave masters and had no love for self. So if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the example, then we'll let him lead and be an example. And we'll follow that. And we will endure the insults and we will endure the self-hatred or the accusations or the misunderstandings. There's so many misunderstandings. And it's interesting because when people misunderstand the Nation of Islam, I'll talk about my personal experience. And they say, well, now what is it that you believe? And once we lay out what it is that we believe, they say, oh, why don't people like the Nation of Islam? And I said, well, you tell me. That's what we want to know. To teach people who mistreat themselves and each other to stop mistreating themselves and each other, put down the cigarettes, put down the alcohol, stop using drugs, men stop abusing your women stop abusing yourselves, stop neglecting your children, eat wholesome, nutritious meals so that you can have a long life free of disease of the body. Establish something for yourself, like you see others doing. The messenger said to study the operations of the white man. He makes no excuses for his failure. He works together with his own kind, and we should do the same. And so when we talk about what it is that we believe in a conversation, people say, oh, that makes sense. Because it does make sense. So sometimes you need a one-on-one conversation. Sometimes we have to get off the keyboards and stop this keyboard warriorship and just sit and have a conversation and get to understand the followers and students of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Get to know the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If you are in the Chicago area, I encourage you to visit Crow. You can go to crow.org, CROE.org to learn more. You can visit Temple number 20. That's temple20.com, excuse me, temple20.org on the internet. You have our Facebook page if you're watching, or you have our YouTube page. Come visit us at 1157 Haddon Avenue, Sunday at 2 p.m. to learn more about what it is that we believe, to learn more about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I know people have questions about Malcolm X. Even though Netflix told you what we've been telling you for years, I understand that we have misunderstandings, and sometimes we don't want to be public with our support, or public about sitting down with the Muslims in a conversation. So we don't have to do it publicly. We can do it privately as well. Come on in, have a conversation with the minister. If you're a sister, you want to have a conversation with me, we welcome you, because we have to stop highlighting those things that are divisive amongst us, because we're not winning. We are not winning, and in fact, we are losing. So if we want to win, we can't do it without unity. Well, that is my time. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Muhammad Speaks Radio. I apologize that you didn't get to hear as much from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as I'd like you to. The next time I host the show, you'll hear more from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But as we say each and every episode, love your Black self, love your Black kind. I leave you with the greetings of peace. As-salamu alaikum.
I want to talk about the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I want you to understand the program of why you're here, why it's necessary for you to be here. You can never outgrow it, but the program is necessary for us to develop. This is a temple, a place of learning. Everything we do is necessary for your development and practice of the development. Because Islam, brothers and sisters, is a way of life. This is not a religion.